Hello and welcome to another episode of the Family Gamers podcast. This is episode 394.
Hey, hello everybody. We are the Family Gamers. We are super excited to be here. As always, I'm your host, Andrew, and I am joined by my lovely and wonderful wife, Anitra.
That's me.
So we are actually recording this one a little bit early.
A lot bit early,
fine. Because we are out of town this weekend and playing lots of games with lots of people, I hope. But that means we're going to skip a couple things. We're not going to welcome new community members. We're not going to do our Backtalk this week. But we're still going to talk about a fact, a dumb fact, a sponsor message, what we've been playing, and then we do have a topic this week. Anitra, what are we talking about this week?
We are going to talk about our favorite party games.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since we've talked about party games.
Well, there was a long time where party games were kind of frowned on because gatherings of people were kind of frowned on.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So some of our favorite party games are games that we did mention back then or we were fond of back then. And some of them are brand new.
A bunch of them are newer.
Newish. Yeah. So let's get this party started with our fact. I actually have two facts because one of them is a sports fact, and I recognize that not everybody likes sports facts.
Okay.
All right. So the first fact is that in the modern era, which is, I think, the last 50 years or something, the highest batting average in the modern era is, in fact, 394.
All right.
Which is a pretty high batting average.
That's pretty high.
It's hit by Tony Gwynn in 1994. So the highest ever batting average now that's recognized, so Major League Baseball has incorporated the Negro League statistics into Major League Baseball, is something like 471, which is crazy.
Wow.
So 394, this was, 31 years ago.
Yep.
By Tony Gwynn.
Yep.
So pretty amazing.
All right.
If you're not a sports person, however, I did promise a record for you. This is a dumb record. Are you ready?
Sure.
The world record for the most spins of a Guinness World Records book on the finger in 1 minute is 394.
Sure. Okay.
I mean, you do the quick math on that, and that's something like 7 spins a second.
Yeah, I'm surprised that book wasn't taken off into the air.
I don't even know how you can do that. I mean, that's crazy. It's not 7 a second. It's like 6.5 or something like that. But whatever.
It's
it was
a
achieved
lot.
by Arun Kumar Mahanta in Bhubaneswar, Odisha, India, in August of 2022.
Okay, then.
Somebody spun a book, a Guinness World Records book,
Specifically,
no less,
Guinness World Records
on their finger
book.
394 times in 1 minute. I don't know about you, nothing personal to Mr. Mahanta. That's a dumb fact.
Still an impressive record, though.
Impressive and yet dumb.
Also dumb,
Yeah.
but impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I have a message from our sponsor.
Sure. Who is our sponsor?
Our sponsor is First Move Financial. Let's tell you who they are. Who is First Move Financial? Well, First Move Financial is a financial services firm started by Donnie Carpenter, and his focus is to help normal families work with their finances. This isn't just investing. It can include investing, but it's also spending every dollar wisely, knowing when to transition from debt payments to making other purchases. But mostly, it's about intelligently navigating the money world. Donnie is a board gamer just like us, so he completely understands the shelf of shame, and a lot of other board game things as well. You can go to firstmovefinancial.com/familygamers to find out more.
Thanks so much to the team at First Move Financial for sponsoring another episode of the Family Gamers podcast. All right, so obviously with an abbreviated period of time since our last show, we have an abbreviated amount of games that we've been playing.
We do.
But let's talk first about Little Alchemists. So we've talked about this a bunch of times really already. This is the kids version, the less complex version of the full-blown game Alchemist, which is kind of this deduction game about potion making.
Yeah, I really know nothing about the Alchemists, so I've really been enjoying Little Alchemists, and I think we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, this is a single game that is a room to grow episode all by itself.
Yes, yeah. So the beginning of the game is really very simple. This is an app-accompanied game where you're taking these components and you take a picture of them, and the app will tell you what those components make, which is, I'm assuming, randomized. I assume there's some...
Yeah, that's got to be the main reason to use the app is because it's generating what that pattern is for each game separately.
And so when you create something, it creates like a cross-section there's a cross-section board that you have, and you put these different tokens on to represent all the potions that they make. And what you're trying to figure out is what are all of the types of potions that any given potion element can make.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so there's 7 expansion little boxes. Like, it's not really a campaign. I mean, I don't know what you would call it. I mean, it's kind of like a campaign, but there's no story. But there's 7 kind of expansions that expand the game out as you play through it, and as you, like, air quote, beat every level or unlock every box.
Unlock every box.
So this is not a cooperative game, but as you play through it, you're kind of cooperating to unlock more material. And the game gets progressively more complex, and we're not going to spoil anything for you, but by the time you get to the end of the game, the core gameplay loop is identical, but there's definitely a lot more thinking going on, and there's a lot more possibilities, and it really does make it a genuinely, like, interesting game, even for the adult gamer near the end. Even if that core gameplay loop is simple, take 2 components, put them on your little test board, take a picture of them, and then you have an answer.
Yep, exactly. So we've been having a lot of fun with that. Not too long after our last podcast, I played a bunch of solo games of Mezen in order to review it, which we did a week ago. Mm-hmm. Mezen is basically a solo game. And once you realize that, for me, it helped unlock a little bit more of, oh, this is what I'm trying to do. It is a simultaneous play, like side-by-side solo game for up to 5 players.
Yeah. I mean, the show break for this one, that snap review is going to be Mezen. So I think people should listen to that. And if you want to see the video of that, I would commend you to go to our YouTube page to check out that video.
The art
is really cool. It's this really interesting, primitive white, red, and black art. It's really neat. It's definitely influenced by Russian culture. It's really cool. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, next, we played a couple of games last night, just you and me.
Yep. Just you and me.
And the first one is a game that we had kind of sort of tried out a little bit.
But we didn't have enough time to play the whole
but we
game.
didn't really play through. And this is Donald Duck is Happy Camper. Is that what it's officially called?
Donald Duck in Happy Camper.
Donald Duck in Happy Camper. I have a feeling that there must be like a short, like a, Disney short of some sort.
Yeah.
That is Donald Duck in Happy Camper. And that's what this whole thing is based on. So we played Donald Duck in Happy Camper.
Yes.
This is a Maestro Media game. They do a lot of these kind of branded games.
Yeah.
They're working with different intellectual property, stuff like that. This game reminded me a lot of Camp Pinetop.
Sure, I can see that because you're trying to explore and get merit badges by doing specific things.
Yeah, and you're literally traveling from tile to tile and doing different things on the tiles. It's simpler than Camp Pinetop.
Yes.
So in this game, Donald Duck is traveling around in this campground and flipping tiles over, and you are Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and you're
Webigail.
And Webigail. Okay, sorry. And you are, I don't want to say following in his footsteps, but you kind of are. You're not going to undiscovered places. You're only going to the places that were discovered.
Yeah.
Which in a 2-player game might not always have had Donald Duck on it, but in a 3 or more player game, it will have always had Donald Duck on it because you only flip over 1 per turn. But you go to these places, you build tents on them, and basically the merit badges are something like have a lot of resources in your backpack or build a lot of tents in a lot of different combinations of types of places.
In different kinds of places, yeah.
And so you do that. Merit badges give you points. You absolutely pasted me in this game.
I was really only a couple of points ahead of you. I know it felt like I pasted you, but you did really well in the first half of the game, and I really started to kind of pull it together in the second half of the game. There is a lot of luck in this game, and a lot of the special, like, Donald Duck power things that come out each day, each round, you can really turn those into ways to mess with your opponents, which I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Yeah, I think you and I definitely had different strategies. Like, there was a defined strategy that I was going for, and I think my problem was that I was going for this defined strategy and dipping a little bit into the other strategy, and you really didn't care about anything other than your core strategy. And I think that might be why you won. Like, if I had maybe placed some of my tents a little bit more strategically, I could have gotten some of those extra bonus things or something like that. I don't really know.
Maybe.
This is a game I definitely want to play more to see if it's broken or not for this exact reason. But I know what you're saying. I mean, I think a lot of the luck is really just in Donald Duck's deck.
Yeah, well, and what gets flipped out where in your whole map can feel really unfulfilling because The other thing that you need to know is that building tents is the only way to, honestly, to make your movement cheap enough to be worth it.
So I was thinking about this actually this morning, and this game is Maestro Media, which means Daryl Andrews had a hand in developing it. Daryl Andrews, of course, is probably most well known for Sagrada, which is another puzzle game that is very constricting. And this game felt very constricting.
Sure.
I like a game where you get to say yes a lot. Like, we've talked about Fleet Dice. Fleet Dice is a perfect example of this. You say yes all the time in Fleet Dice. But in a game like this, it's a very constricting and tight puzzle where you just don't have a lot of options, and you really have to be efficient about it. And I think that I just was not in the right headspace for that kind of a game. And also, like, those are the kinds of things that I think are really important for someone to know if they're making a buying decision. Is this the style of game that they want to have?
Yeah, I think this one is interesting because it looks like a very open exploration game. And in some ways it is, but the feel is that very constricted feel because you have a really limited amount of movement each turn, and getting more supplies will actually limit your movement further. So you can either move a lot or you can have a lot of supplies to do stuff with. You can never do both at the same time. And that gets frustrating real fast.
Yeah, and the other piece of it is you have to kind of leave the forest to get supplies and then go back into the forest, and that's just a big pain in the butt also. So if you can't warp yourself around, it gets really difficult in that way. Again, I don't know how I feel. I think the jury's still out on this game, but it certainly is a much more constricting game than a game that's wide open and you can do all sorts of stuff. And that definitely, having that headspace going into it, I think is going to help a lot in terms of satisfaction. Yeah,
I think it was not the kind of game we were hoping for, but we're still willing to give it a fair shot and try some more.
I mean, it's not going to surprise anybody to know that Donald Duck is my favorite Disney character because he and I are like each other's spirit animals in a lot of ways. Or at least he's mine. You know, he can do whatever he wants. But like, I love that dude. I love that dude so much. I gave him a hug when we went to Disney World.
He doesn't know how to rest, and in that way, he's very much like
and
you.
He's grumpy all the time.
Yes.
I mean, he's me.
I think you swear less than he does.
I hope so.
Although you can never tell what Donald Duck is saying, so maybe it doesn't matter. The other game that just the two of us played together is almost the exact opposite in a whole lot of ways, which is In the Footsteps of Marie Curie. So this game looks super confined. Like, you're moving along a single track. You've only got a few things that can get you points. But once you get a couple of turns into the game, you end up like, oh, like I could do this and that's good, or I could do this and that's good, or I could do this and that's good. I'm just choosing between a bunch of different options that are good. Awesome.
Yeah, I think the big thing about this game is even when you have a turn that has a lot of steps to it, because there's the changing of the, I'm just going to say the black cubes into the gold cubes into the silver cubes.
Yes.
Whatever they are. They mean radium.
It's pitch, blend, and radium and something else. Yeah.
Even if you're doing a lot of conversions and that gives you stuff and that stuff turns around and gives you more conversions or whatever, there's not a lot of movement across the game progression continuum, right?
Yes.
The game progression continuum in this game is completely removed from anybody else because it's literally the passage of time. So it's just anytime a red icon shows up, you move the thing and that's it. So you never feel like you're really getting far ahead of anybody else because there's no like completion progress bar. Do you know what I mean when I say that?
Yes. You can speed up time, but if you speed up time, you're speeding it up for everybody. And sometimes when that clock moves, there's some kind of bonus for everybody. So the only real reason to speed up time is if you think you can get that bonus and somebody else can't. Mm-hmm. Right?
So while we were playing this game, this is a very dumb analogy, but can I make a dumb analogy?
Sure.
Okay. So I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about, was it you that mentioned soccer? Did you mention like soccer scores?
Yes.
Yeah, you mentioned soccer scores, and that reminded me that like in America, we like football, and football has big fake scores. So there's a big scoring difference, but it's not a real big scoring difference. It's a fake scoring difference.
It's a fake scoring difference.
And I have to shout out Grant Lyon for that one because he made that point in one of his comedy bits. It's not, 21-14, it's 3-2, right? But it feels bigger when it's 21-14, and this game is similar in that way. I only beat you by 2 points, but it was 12-10. It wasn't like 54-52.
Yeah, you fight for every single point you get in the Footsteps of Marie Curie, although I think fight's probably not the right term here, you have to really put effort forth for every single point that you get.
Yeah.
And that weirdly makes it feel more fulfilling and more interesting because every time you get a point, you're like, yeah, I did it.
Yeah, you definitely have to go into this knowing that, one victory point is valuable. Get it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's an important thing to get your head around, and then, you're good to go. This is another one of those games that kind of feels a little bit more like a side-by-side solo game in a lot of ways. Like, there's interaction with the cubes that you take and the cards that you draft, but really, you're pretty much doing your own thing.
Yeah, I think there's some interaction. Again, like I said, trying to get a bonus and shut somebody else out is definitely a thing you can do. And there's this random cube drop, and in choosing what cubes you want to take from what got dropped out, you can look at that and be like, well, I might be able to affect the next person, but it's very much a might. A lot of the things that you do that would affect somebody else are luck-based.
Yeah. This game feels very elegant to me.
Yeah, me too.
It's just nice. And, we didn't play in the footsteps of Darwin, but I will say that talking to Stephanie, who has written for familygamers.com, about In the Footsteps was actually what got me interested in the Footsteps of Mary Curie. So I'm really enjoying it. Want to play it with more people. Want to play it more times. I don't think this game has a solo mode, but it might. I don't really know for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked into that.
On the plus side for everybody who's listening, this is a game that we have for review, so we will be writing it up, taking pictures, doing all the things.
Yep. Fairly soon. As soon as we can play it some more. Let's see. We got just a couple more. I've been playing some solo Medieval Academy, also in preparation for an upcoming Snap review, which will be soon. Might already be released by the time this podcast comes out. I don't know. The time is weird. Time has no meaning right now.
Especially this week, yeah.
Also played some more Kabanga with our children who really enjoy the gotcha part of Kabanga.
Yep, that's a game we're going to have to bring this weekend.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And you and I played some Jekyll vs. Hyde. And I won. And you say I win all the time, but I actually only win about 2/3 of the time. And you win about 1/3 of the time.
Okay. You win twice as much as me.
Yes.
All right, there we go. All right, so I said we weren't going to do new community members or Backtalk or anything like that, but I did get this one audio message that I have to share with you all. So
yes.
Last show, we talked about how we played this game, Nidavellir, and Stefan sent me an audio message instructing me that I am shameful in my pronunciation, my Americanized, lame
Very Americanized
pronunciation. And he really, really convicted me because he said it's not Nidavellir, it's Nidavellir.
More or less.
The best. Anyway, so take it away, Stefan.
Hey, Andrew. It's Nidavellir. Nidavellir. Not Nidavellir. Nidavellir.
All right, so I feel sufficiently chastised in this moment. I will do my best. Nidavellir.
A lot better than I was doing.
Nidavellir.
All right.
All right. How did I do, Stefan? Let me know. I do care. I promise. All right. Now that I have rolled my R's, I think it's time to take a break.
So we're going to give you a Snap review, and then we're going to talk about party games.
We'll be right back. We're going to talk this week about a game that is literally about an art style. Mezen, a Russian folk art of two-color painting primarily on wood. Unsurprisingly, that's the name of the game, too.
This is a Snap review for Mezen. Mezen is a tile-shifting puzzle game for up to 5 players designed by Nikita Sorokin. It takes about half an hour, and it's best for ages 12 and up.
Mezen is published by Hobby World and Arcane Wonders.
All right, since this game is named for its art style, let's talk about that. Mezen painting designs feature blocks of red with outlines and details added in black. That's echoed by the components in this game.
Everything is red and black and white, from the cards to the tiles to the scoreboard and even the scoring tokens.
Because there's intense blocks of such few colors, each player gets assigned a distinct shape instead of a color.
So, let's talk about the mechanics of Mezen and how we play the game.
Each player takes the 25 tiles in their shape and randomly arranges them light side up in a 5x5 grid in front of them. They also get a matching shaped scoring token and put it on the central board.
They also take 5 of these tiny amulets. The rest go in the middle of the board. Set up a deck of goal cards by looking for 12 with the same symbol. Then shuffle them and deal 10 face down to the 2 long sides of the board where the spots are. Reveal the first 2 goal cards over here.
Mezen takes 10 rounds to play. In each round, examine the goal for the current round to see what kind of arrangement will award points. Then, the active player announces one of the 5 animal symbols: bird, horse, fox, hedgehog, or fish. Everyone finds a connected group of tiles with that symbol on their own grid, removes them, and sets them aside.
If you don't like the animal named, pay the active player 1 amulet to make a different animal grouping on your own grid. You can also place an amulet on top of a tile, turning it into sort of a wild. This tile temporarily serves as a connector between 2 groups of tiles, letting you make a bigger group. But it also excludes that particular tile from being removed, which sometimes may be helpful.
Once you've removed your group of tiles, slide the rest of the tiles down to fill the empty spaces. Then flip over all the tiles you set aside and put them back into the new open spaces at the top of the grid, however you like. Try to arrange them to contribute to this round's goals.
Once everyone has placed their flipped tiles, score victory points for each tile in your grid that meets the conditions of the current goal card. Then, flip the current goal face down to show the round is over, and flip the next goal card along the row so there are always 2 goal cards revealed. Then, pass the active player reindeer to the left.
After the first round, you may see one new symbol on some of your dark side tiles: the spruce. This tree symbol acts like a wild when making and removing a group. In fact, it must be a part of any group it touches. But it doesn't act like a wild when it comes to scoring specific animal symbols. Some goal cards may specify spruce symbols as part of their requirements.
That's most of the game, but we're not quite done. First of all, you need to know that there is a way to get more amulets. At the end of any round, you can choose to get 2 amulets instead of scoring that round's goal.
This is a great option when you wouldn't otherwise get any points that round.
After the 5th round scoring, count up how many dark tiles you have in your grid and give yourself 1 point for each.
After the 10th and final round scoring, give yourself a point for every light tile that you have, and 1 point for every amulet, and 1 point for every tile in the largest connected group you have, which can include spruce tiles. Whoever has the most points wins the game.
So that's how we play, Mezen. Anitra, what did you expect from this one?
I thought the art in this looked really, really cool. And the idea of each player having a different shape is super clever. But once we started going through the instructions, it felt really confusing. I wasn't sure exactly what the point of the game was or what we were really trying to do.
Art-wise, I totally agree with you. The art on the front of the box grabbed me, and the more I looked at it and I realized that it kind of reused a lot of different shapes to be different things, like teardrops could be hair or fins or leaves. It really reminded me this is a unique and primitive art style. But Mezen is just that, an art style. So I had no idea how that was actually going to translate to the mechanics of a game. So what surprised us about Mezen?
Since this game was kind of hard to learn, I was surprised to eventually realize that it's basically a solo game. In fact, there are rules to play solo, and the only major change is in when and how you get amulets. Playing solo, you always get to pick exactly the animal you want to use for a grouping, so you never have to give up amulets to change it, or gain amulets when someone else wants to bypass what you named. Instead, you get 1 additional amulet every 2 rounds. Put these on the goal cards, and you unlock an amulet when you flip the card that it's on. There's a lot of variability in the goal setup, but it doesn't actually change the game that much. You're always going to look ahead at what the next round's goal is, and try to see if you can piece together an animal grouping that will let you rearrange the tiles to better meet the next goal and the goal after that. Sometimes it'll work, and sometimes it won't.
For me, I really liked the sliding puzzle aspect of Mezen. I love that you were constantly pulled back and forth, trying to please all of these different goals that are so wildly different. The only ones that are consistent are the dark and light tile goals at the 5th and the 10th rounds. The rest could really be anything, and I love that variability.
I am a little disappointed in the rulebook in general. It seemed to take a really convoluted path to explain how to play the game, and then when I got interested in finding out more about the Mezen art style, it was really hard to wade through the language that was used to describe it on the last 2 pages. I ended up doing research online instead, which was a little easier to interpret.
One other thing I do want to add here is the component quality on Mezen just isn't that great. The cardboard is very thin. Our board came warped. So if you are going to play this with the family, just be mindful that it might not be as robust as some of your other games.
Yeah, it's fine, but not amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend Mezen to 2 distinct audiences. First, families who want a jumping off point to study more about folk art, especially in Russia or Scandinavia. This is kind of a Nordic style as well as Russian. Secondly, gamers who want a puzzly game with no player interference and challenges that never feel punitive.
We give Mezen 3.5 animals out of 5.
And that's Mezen
In a snap.
And we're back.
All right, so we are going to talk about party games this week. We are going on a trip. And so we're actually recording a little bit early, but that's not important. So we're going on a trip, which means, by the way, next episode we're going to have tons of games to talk about
Yes.
in our what we've been playing.
Yes.
But we're going on a trip where there's going to be 300 of our closest friends. And so we are going to prioritize bringing party games. And that got us thinking about party games.
Yeah, we're also going to be bringing lots of party games because some of these interactions are super casual, like in a bar kind of thing. So you don't want anything that's going to be a big commitment.
Yeah, I mean, if people are going to drop in, they're going to drop out. Also with party games. And honestly, this is really a good time for us to kind of describe what we mean when we say party game, right? So dropping in and dropping out easily is kind of a key part of a party game. If somebody's like, I got to go off and do my own thing, I'm kind of done with this, you don't want to be like, well, we can't play this game anymore without 5 players or 8 players.
Or without you,
Right.
specifically,
Right. Right. So that's a huge part. It's not just about being able to play a game with 6 or 10 or 12 players. That's not the only thing that makes a good party game a party game.
Right. So the last time we talked about party games on the podcast was a long, long time ago. It was almost 5 years ago in episode 210. And our main criteria for that one was just works really well at 4 or more players. But some of the games we named in that one aren't really party games. They're just group games, which are still fun. But when we're talking party games, we're talking about they work well with larger groups. They're simple rules. They're easy to teach, they're easy to learn, and they either allow that easy kind of drop in, drop out, and dropping in is important too, like, oh, hey, this game looks fun, can I play with you guys? Like a way to just pull people along. And if they don't allow that, then their playtime is really short, like 10 minutes or less.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if someone's watching a game and you say, oh, it'll be 5 minutes before, the next person can sit down, then I think we're in good shape.
Yeah. They're usually silly, and a lot of our favorite party games are kind of guessing games or cluing games, but not all of them.
So there's a couple other things I want to kind of mention about party games that are really important. One of the big ones is that a lot of party games are card-based, and there's a lot of reasons for this. Number one, people play card games, right? So that's a thing that people are familiar with.
There's familiarity.
Familiarity with a deck of poker cards, right? It's just the idea of playing cards wherever you are in the country or in the world, whether it's like euchre or poker or any of these games, the idea of using cards to play a game is not foreign. And so it helps with some of the lack of familiarity that people might have with trying to play a more involved game. So that's number one. Number two, cards are really inexpensive to print. Like compared to even cubes or minis or whatever.
Yeah.
And so you can get a good quantity of product into the hands of the people, which is what you need to do when you have 6, 7, 8, 10 people.
And cards are extremely portable.
Yes. Also true. I mean, paper does get heavy, but it's a pretty portable product.
Yeah.
So a lot of these games that you're going to hear us talk about are either entirely card-based or have a pretty hefty card component to them.
Yeah. Let's see, is there anything else we need to address before we get into the list of... it started at 5, and I think now we have 7 games.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we do things. Yeah, I mean, I think the only other thing that I would add to this is that a lot of these kinds of games, you can kind of play them at different levels, right? So a game that's not on our list, for example, is the game Cards Against Humanity. And we've talked a lot about this game and how we don't care for this game.
We're not fans of that game.
Right? But ultimately, at the end of the day, Cards Against Humanity is basically apples to apples, right? So a lot of the games that we identify as party games have components or aspects or expansions or whatever to them that would enable you to play them in a more mature or a less mature group of people. And so that flexibility is really helpful as well.
But all of our favorite party games are ones you can play with kids in family settings. And all of them work down to 4 players and sometimes less. So you don't need a huge group to do it.
Sure. 2 of the games on our list do, in fact, have expansions for a more mature audience. I'll mention them when we get
at
there.
Least 2.
In case people, care.
On to the list in no particular order.
In no particular order. I mean, we could go, you want to go alphabetically just for kicks?
Yeah, let's do that.
Well, the first one on the list is actually technically a game that was on our last list 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And that is the game Anomia.
That's a game that's made basically every list that it fits with since we started the Family Gamers because we've enjoyed it for a decade now.
Yeah. So Anomia is a great game. Everybody's going around in a circle. I think it caps at 8 because there's only 8 different symbols or something along
something
those
like
lines.
that, yeah.
So everybody goes around the table. There's a central deck. You flip a card out from the deck and put it face up on top of the stack of cards in front of you. In the middle of that card is a symbol. If your symbol matches somebody else's symbol, you have to name something that is described by the category on their card before they name something that is described by the category on your card. There's wilds, which can make different symbols, match each other. But that's kind of the gist of the game.
Yeah. It feels a little bit like a fast-paced trivia game, but it's more like the sort of trivia of just give me something that fits in this category.
Mm-hmm. So the word Anomia, for those of you who don't know, who just think it's a cool name, it is a cool name.
It is a cool name.
Literally, when you are trying to remember something and it's on the tip of your tongue and it is like flitting in and out of your memory, but you can't quite say the word, you can't figure out what that word is, literally the word Anomia describes that thing. So that's what Anomia is. Anomia, by the way, is a game that has like a mature expansion or deck or whatever.
Well, and in Anomia's case, there is also a version you can play with non-reading children
which
called
is awesome,
Anomia Kids.
Which is awesome. Yeah. And we have a review for Anomia Kids on the Family Gamers website.
We also have a review for Anomia Pop Culture Edition, which we think is hilarious with teenagers.
It's very funny.
It is very funny with teenagers.
Yeah. Next on the list is a game that we have loved for a very long time, and I actually think if we went to this party and did not bring this game, somebody might actually shoot us.
Somebody would be annoyed at the very least.
I think there's a real possibility other people will bring this game because they had so much fun playing it the last couple of times that we brought it, and this is the game Green Team Wins. Surprising absolutely nobody.
Yeah, I would say this has maybe supplanted Anomia for us because, frankly, it is more family friendly. There's not time pressure on Green Team Wins. And only one person needs to be able to read the cards. So we have successfully played it with kids who are kind of on that cusp of not quite reading yet, but close.
Yeah, we let them draw pictures instead of saying the things. I mean, Green Team Wins is fantastic for a lot of different reasons. It gets into what I like to refer to as religious arguments.
Friendly religious arguments.
Yeah, which are not actually religious arguments.
Right.
Which are like arguments about something where there really is no correct answer, which by definition means not but that's a different conversation. Is it this or that? And you just have a preference, but it's just popular opinion.
There's no correct answer, but people have really, really strongly held opinions.
Sometimes.
But
I mean, those are the ones that make it fun.
Yes, exactly.
And everybody gets in on the argument, right? It's a simultaneous play game, which actually really helps a lot. Like Anomia is conceptually a simultaneous play game in the sense that everybody has to look at everybody's symbols, but it's not really. Like if the symbol flips and it's not you,
it has these little head-to-head matchups. But Green Team Wins is not like that. Green Team Wins is somebody reads off the question, everybody answers it secretly on their board, and then everybody reveals. And in the course of tallying up what answer was the most popular, then you get these arguments.
Yep, absolutely. So Might as well mention at this point, if you missed the Snap review, there was a holiday expansion for this, which was called Holiday, but it's a Christmas
It's
expansion.
Christmas, yeah.
So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely something you can pick up.
All right, moving down the list alphabetically, the next one is sort of a hidden gem, I would say.
I think that is a very accurate term for this game.
A game that we just discovered last year, and that is the game called Secret Identity.
So in Secret Identity, you have, I know this is a shocker, a secret identity.
You actually have a series of secret identities. I think you play 3 or 4 or 5 rounds, something like that, yeah.
So the thing that's really, really tricky about this game is that at the beginning of the game, everybody gets 10 clue cards. And you are able to use up to 3 clue cards per round. Every round you get a different secret identity to clue everybody else in on who you might be. Each clue card has 4 different icons on it. You would be showing one of those icons.
Right.
And the icons that you show might relate to each other or not. It's up to the clue givers and guessers, I suppose, to figure that out. But the thing that's really interesting about this is you lose those clue cards once you use them, and so you are
and you never get more.
You never get more. You're running out of clue cards and getting progressively more desperate as the game goes on.
Yeah. It's one of those where you also have those moments of yes, I have exactly what I need. Or the highs and the lows, the despair of how on earth would I clue this character with what I have? There's no way this is going to work. And then you can get a little jolt of dopamine if even one person guesses your identity correctly.
Yeah, it's like baseball. You failed 9 out of 10 times, but that's okay, or whatever.
The 10th time feels great.
Yeah. The only thing I would say about this game is when you're playing this game with kids, you kind of want to make sure that everybody knows who the secret identities are when they come out. Most adults will know these. It's possible that somebody won't. But it's a good, fair thing to check as you're laying the identities out on the table.
Well, and that gets back to another thing we didn't mention, which is that every round, there are only 8 available identities. So everybody knows what the 8 possibilities are.
Sure.
And yeah, when you're laying those out, you can check with everybody oh, hey, does everyone here know who Pikachu is?
Or Salvador Dali would be maybe a better. I think everybody knows who Pikachu is, especially the kids.
You would hope.
But I mean, what do I know?
But it narrows that decision space enough that it keeps the game from kind of going off the rails of how on earth would I know that you were supposed to be Bach? You could have been any musician.
Sure.
Well, no, you can't because there's, only 1 or maybe 2 or maybe 3 musicians on the board.
Right. Yeah, I'm actually going to read directly out of our Snap review for this, and here's what I said. I said, I really like this game because it's a net positive all the way around. There is only shared success in Secret Identity, which makes it a great family game. It's not good for the date pile, but it's definitely good for a feel-good game with a little bit of silliness and a little bit of laughter.
So this is one where it might be a little bit harder to drop in. You certainly can drop out fairly easily, but I think if somebody saw this and they wanted to drop in, it doesn't take all that long, so you could ask them to wait, or you could sort of deal them in with their own board and cards and just give them an average number of cards based on how many rounds that are left.
I mean, it doesn't really matter all that. I mean, you could also cut this game short, after 2 rounds or something like that. It's not really going to impact a whole lot. It does say the game takes around 45 minutes to play. That's probably about right. So it is a little bit longer on the party game kind of list, but I just think it's an absolute blast. We were genuinely surprised by this game.
Yeah, it really struck a chord in a good way for our family, and I think it's another one that we definitely should bring with us and introduce to folks.
It's cheap too. It's like $30 on Amazon. So there you go.
Yeah, this is a game that has a lot more components than just cards. You've got your boards that you can stick the cards in. There's a central scoreboard so you can kind of see how everybody's doing. It's nice. All right, the next one in alphabetical order should also not surprise anyone. We have been raving about this game since the very first time we played it. And that was a long time ago. That was before we were doing video Snap reviews. So it was a long time ago.
Yeah. It was back when we were entertaining plans of opening a board game cafe.
Yeah, it was. This game is Similo.
Yes. Similo is a one and many game. It's not a one versus many game. It is a one and many game. You have a single clue giver, and everybody else is trying to guess the answer.
It is an asymmetric cooperative game like we talked about last time.
Yep. Was that last time, or was
It was
that
last
2 times
time.
ago?
It was
My
last
goodness
time.
gracious. Things are going fast. Yeah, so similar to something like a Just One, where you have a single clue giver and everybody else is trying to guess what the clue is. Everybody is working towards trying to identify who the character on the open board is the character that the clue giver is trying to get everybody to guess. And they're trying to do it by identifying similarities, which is why the game is called Similo.
Yep. The clue giver is only allowed to give a single card as a clue each round, and all they can do with the card is place it in one orientation to say, this is like our end goal character, or in the other orientation, sideways, to say, this is not like our end goal of a character. As the game goes on, the guessing group chooses more and more of the cards in the grid to eliminate. Because of that, this is one of those games, it's incredibly easy for people to drop in. We've seen it happen over and over and over again. Like, oh, hey, what is this? Oh, we're trying to figure out which of these cards here, work with the clues we've already been given so we can eventually narrow it down to the one final answer.
And it's easy to observe and kind of just tease it out as you go and just offer some thoughts.
Yep.
So great for that. There is a ton of different kinds of Similo at this point.
Yes.
We have, I think, 4, but there's a lot more. They even have some IP ones, like there's a Harry Potter one and some other stuff like that as well.
This also has the distinction of being the only game on our list that you can actually play, according to the rules, with just 2 people. If you do that, then the guesser needs to speak their thoughts out loud to give the clue giver some idea of how they're making their decisions of what to eliminate and what not to.
Yeah, that's a good point. In this game, the clue giver can listen to the conversation that is going on amongst the team. It's not like that conversation is supposed to be secret.
Yeah.
And that can actually help them in the way that they give clues for the next round.
Your turn. Next one in alphabetical order.
All right. Well, you gave me a good one. I mean, I guess they're all good ones, but the
That's
next
the
one
idea.
in alphabetical order on this list is the game Smug Owls.
Yeah, so did you know they just released 3 new expansions for Smug Owls?
I did. One of them is the mature Smug Owl or whatever.
Smut Owls.
Smut Owl? Yikes. Okay, well, that's the one that I didn't know that's what it was called. Pairs up with Anomia X or whatever
Anomia
it is.
After Dark, or whatever it is.
So that's the mature one, but there are 2 others. Do you know what they are?
There is Pompous Owls.
I don't know
and
what that
I've
means, but okay.
forgotten what the third one is. The Pompous one is sort of a step above Smug Owls when you want to feel superior to all the people you're playing with. And the third one is Poser Owls.
Okay, which means?
It says here, an expansion pack for owls who think they are cool.
Okay. Well, there you go. I guess that's that. So Smug Owls is a wonderful game. It is this kind of question-generating game that really is remarkable in the types of deep, soul-searching questions that it asks, I think.
I mean, it says that it's a riddle-generating game.
Sure.
But this is riddles like the really classic riddles where sometimes they're a question with a secret hidden answer, and sometimes they're a question that just makes you think really hard.
Like, what is broken as it grows or something, those kinds of things. Or, what gets bigger as it loses something, things like that.
Yeah. So what I've said over and over again about Smug Owls is this is a game that can make you feel smart, make you feel clever in the way that you come up with an answer. And it's also a game that lets you reward and recognize that cleverness in other people. Every round in Smug Owls, the riddle is programmatically generated by the deck, and everyone tries to come up with an answer. The person who doesn't come up with an answer or who comes up with an answer last becomes the judge.
Yep.
That can be a shortcoming if you have a person in the group who just is like, I don't know, man, that I can't come up with anything, like, ever. But even then, if they can lean into it, they can just sit there and appreciate, like, wow, that's super cool. Like, it becomes a fun group experience more than explicitly just a game.
Yeah, I mean, you can house rule it that the judge goes around. Like,
Yeah,
it doesn't
you can do
matter.
that too.
It doesn't make a difference. But this game actually reminds me a lot of Poetry Slam, because
Yes.
in Poetry Slam, you're trying to give clues about a word with a rhyming couplet, and you are encouraged to give these snap tokens, because it's this whole, bohemian thing or whatever that term is that I forgot right now. So you're encouraged to give these snap tokens when somebody has a particularly clever couplet, right? And that kind of idea where technically you're competing, but you're still appreciating, this is a game respects game kind of thing. I love that about this game.
Yes, and that is definitely present in Smug Owls with way less overhead than Poetry Slam had. Mm-hmm. And although you're thinking hard, you're only kind of thinking hard in one dimension versus in Poetry Slam where you're like, okay, I came up with a word and now I have to come up with a way to clue it and it has to rhyme and like all of these other pieces together. Smug Owls, it's literally just, can I come up with an answer to this riddle that I think makes sense? Maybe I can come up with more than one because I can come up with one that I think other people at the table will think is cool. And that's about it.
I also like that, I mean, a lot of board games make you think about math or think about, well, it's all math stuff, like area things and mechanics and statistics.
How do I get more points?
And it's all math stuff. All the thinking in this game is philosophical.
Yes.
And I just think it's cool that you can do that with a game.
Yeah.
And you don't need someone to like adjudicate the whole thing. Like you kind of do with a judge, but it's not like one person is installed as the adjudicator for the whole thing. Like it kind of it moves around. All right, the next game on the list is a game that we literally have to buy another copy of because we have pretty much worn out the copy.
We are starting to wear out our cards.
Yeah, it's pretty much worn out. I'm gonna probably sleeve the next one in the interest of keeping it alive a little bit longer.
This is the only game on our list that is neither a word game, nor a guessing game, nor a cluing game.
I mean, it's a little bit of a deduction game.
Deduction and memory, but it's not a word game, it's not a guessing game.
Sure. Yeah, I would agree with that. And that game, another one that will not surprise anyone when we say it out loud, is the game Trio.
So this is on the lower end of party games. It tops out at 6 players. Mm-hmm. However, it is so fast that you're not going to care too much. Like, it's one where we've definitely had people do a round and be like, you know what, I'm going to step out and let this other person play.
Right. Very fast, very, very fun. So the purpose of Trio is to get 3 trios of
or the
cards,
golden
or
seven
the golden
trio.
Sevens. You can only play your highest or your lowest card or ask somebody for their highest or their lowest card, which is why the 7 is the hardest because it's in the middle. Cards are numbered 1 to 12, and there are 3 of each. So that's 36 cards. Pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And that is the game Trio. We love it. We've talked about it a billion times. If you have questions, we're more than happy to answer any of them. If you somehow can't find the million times that we've talked about this already.
Before we get to our last one, all of the games we've mentioned so far, we've done some kind of review of at some point. All of those reviews will be linked to in the show notes for this podcast. The last one we have not done a review of.
I was just going to say, except for this one.
Right. Well, it's a good time to say it. Yeah. The last game in alphabetical order we have not ever reviewed. We bought ourselves a copy and have simply just enjoyed playing it a lot. That one is Wavelength.
So Wavelength is one of these games where you have a clue giver and everybody else is trying to figure out whether or not they're on the same wavelength as the clue giver. And the way the game sort of works, there's this, covered dial, I guess would be the easiest way to describe it. And the dial has like yellow and orange wedges in it. And you're basically, you spin it sort of randomly and the clue giver looks at it. And somewhere on there is, there's the orange wedge, it's very small, right? And then there's kind of 2 yellows on either side of it. And that's really the ideal point where you want your team to put the marker after they have responded to the clue. Then there's a thing that covers it up, and then you draw a card, and that card will say something like cat or dog name, or taste good or taste weird, or
it'll always
like
be
that.
Some kind of a continuum between 2 extremes.
Right. And so the clue giver gives a clue which is, sparky, right? And the idea here is that the clue that the clue giver gives is at the point on the spectrum where they have seen this orange wedge. And so the rest of the team is now talking and trying to figure out where do they think, I guess first order gamesmanship is where do they think it should go? Second order gamesmanship is where do they think the clue giver would put it?
Right.
Right. Which is really the way that you win the game. But
right.
That's pretty much the game. So this is a party game where you can effectively have an infinite number of people.
As written in the rules, you're supposed to have 2 teams, and there's some amount of turn taking. We have definitely always just degenerated into playing this as sort of a fully cooperative game.
Yeah, similar-like, basically.
Yeah, because it's so much more fun that way.
Mm-hmm.
So the clue giver will obviously rotate, and this is another one of those games that involves those pseudo-religious arguments, as we've talked about before.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the really interesting things about a game like this, right? It has that same essence, that same, like, quiddity, I guess you would say, that a green team wins has, where you kind of can accept that there's a winning answer, but you don't have to accept that it's the right answer.
Right. Well, and in Wavelength, it's more congenial. In Green Team Wins, you're mad that other people aren't agreeing with you.
I mean, maybe.
Maybe. But in Wavelength, it really is like, it's all about let's come together and figure out the answer here.
Mm-hmm. Listen, that's what party games are all about.
Yeah.
Right? And so this is 7 of our favorite party games that'll maybe help you all come together and just have a good time.
So, as a quick review, 7 of our favorite party games: Anomia in all varieties, Green Team Wins,
Secret Identity,
Similo, once again in whatever variety strikes your fancy,
Smug Owls,
with or without expansions,
Trio,
and Wavelength.
Good stuff. All of which we might be playing in the next 5 days.
Man, I hope so. That would be great.
That'd be awesome. All right, well, we'd love to hear some of the party games that you like to play either with your family or when you go to parties or whatever. Lots of places you can reach out to us to let us know what those might be. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube at Family Gamers AA, Andrew and Anitra. You can also pop over to the Facebook community by going to thefamilygamers.com/community or just going to Facebook and searching for The Family Gamers Community.
And you can also join the Family Tabletop community on Discord. Get an invite by going to thefamilygamers.com/Discord or clicking the link in the show notes. We've been having great discussions over there about games we've been playing and board game challenges and how to take better photos and all kinds of stuff like that. It's a smaller community than the Facebook one, but a really good one.
It's very active. I like it. I like that there's people that are, actively in there and talking and, people I really want to meet, right? It's a lot of fun. I like it. I like it a lot. Of course, you can always email us, Andrew at thefamilygamers.com.
Anitra at thefamilygamers.com.
Please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Tell your friends about the show and leave us a review at Apple Podcast or whatever your podcast subscription source is. You can also find us on Amazon Music and Spotify and even YouTube Music.
Yay, YouTube Music! The Family Gamers is sponsored by First Move Financial. Go to firstmovefinancial.com/familygamers and learn how the team at First Move Financial can help you pile up the victory points.
Thanks so much to the team over there for sponsoring another episode of the show. All right. Anitra, I'm pumped. It's going to be a lot of game playing this weekend.
I'm hoping for lots of party games and maybe a couple of heavier games too.
Yeah, only 1 or 2 though. I mean,
just a couple.
We got to limit it. Our brains will leak out.
Mine definitely will.
All right. Well, we are excited for this weekend and we are excited to tell you all about it. So until next time, everybody, play games with your kids.